But, and again, this is the big difference between a Leninist group and a social democratic group or a community organization, is the goal is revolution. And you can only have party discipline insofar as you are engaged in acts of revolution. And so, I mean, this is a radically different notion of discipline than most liberal organizations or social democratic organizations have.
This is just a general comment, but again, most of what I'm going to be saying is also about what has to be done. But you'll notice what he's arguing against the opportunists, right, the economists and the terrorists, is that they sort of divided their struggle, right? You have the terrorists trying to carry on a revolutionary political struggle, but not trying to include the working class. And you have the economists trying to fight for the working class without making it a political struggle. And so this is where Lenin says, no, it needs to be both, but it also needs to be very rigorous and disciplined. So, right, take for instance, say, the people at factory A get fired, or whatever, well, you know, they're having their own struggles. The people at factories B and C, as well as all the other people, right, again, the people of the class of proletariats, not just simply, oh, the industrial workers, but everybody included in the class needs to be supporting factory A at the same time. And this is what it's meant by solidarity. So,
right, and the Central Party organization, through newspapers, through donations, through worker strike funds, right, coordinates all these efforts of solidarity and support, right? And it can, because it's central, it has contacts with factory A, B, C, and D, and it has operatives in A, B, C, and D, always, you know, in close contact with the workers, and able to distribute centralized party commands. This is a concept of Leninism that I didn't touch on too much, is democratic centralism. A, B, C, and D have a say on who is in the party. They have a say on who gets to, as opposed to being burdened and saddled with being, a professional revolutionary. And that's fine, and that's good. But then once that person is a professional revolutionary and the party is chosen in its central authority, then everybody needs to follow that central authority when it makes decisions. Now, if you don't like it, make your own party. Leave. I mean, this is the real message of Lenin. That's fine. You want to go back to the marsh? Go back to the marsh. Just don't drag us with you. And so, I mean, this is the essence of democratic socialism, is everyone has a say on the central decision, but once that decision is made, it's made. And we need to follow it, or we need to have a radical break with the party, which Lenin did. Stalin literally left the party to do what he thought was necessary for revolution. And that's good, to leave the party, to have splits. As Mao said, a revolutionary party gets stronger by purging its reactionary elements. So, yeah. Additional questions? Anyone?
do you want to tell the Jasinski story?
The jet ski story?
The Jasinski story.
Which Jasinski? Oh, what, about him being a factory worker?
Car objects.
Oh, yeah, well,
Sorry,
it's not particularly germane at this point. But one of the big criticisms against Lenin was his brutality, his absolute brutality and his police state, which was done by the Cheka, which is essentially the police, this secret police, like the FBI. So Lenin was driving from St. Petersburg to Moscow, and a bunch of guys came out with guns. And they're like, you need to get out of the car and give us the car. And we're hijacking you, and we want this car. And so the people with Lenin are, do you know who that is? That's Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, who is the leader of the country. And I believe this is in 1919. And the carjackers are like, that's cool. Also, get out of the car. We're taking this car. Or actually, it might have been, yeah, I think it was early 1919. And so Lenin had to walk to the nearest, Lenin and the entire, all the people in the car had to walk to the nearest telephone and call for a ride. So the leader of the Soviet Union was carjacked on his way to Moscow. Very shortly after, the Cheka was formed under Felix Stravinsky, good old Iron Felix, who was a factory worker. And basically, they proceeded to, I'm trying to find a delicate way to put this, just be a bunch of the most raging badasses, possibly in the history of the world, And they fought counter-revolutionaries, they fought white Russians, they fought traitors, and they fought organized crime. And people don't realize this. Organized crime was about as prevalent in revolutionary Russia initially as organized crime is prevalent in Russia today. Notice you don't hear much about organized crime under late Lenin or Stalin or Khrushchev or Brezhnev. And the reason why is because the Cheka did a really good job about disincentivizing with bullets anyone who felt inclined to engage in criminal organization. So again, the state is not just going to repress counter-revolution. Well, it's not going to just repress political counter-revolutionaries, but it will also repress those who, through their actions, are counter-revolutionary. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, and I think it's important to keep in mind that if, per se, since the revolution is tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of reactionary forces, such as biker gangs, other, et cetera, that are probably going to, I don't know, throw a wrench in the works here and there. And if there's not something, a mechanism in place to deal with it, I'll see the revolution moving forward.
Yeah. And you'll get essentially a criminal fascistic regime. And yeah, the Nazis were a criminal regime, and if you're interested in that, again, you can look at the lecture on the dictatorship of the proletariat. Any additional questions? All right. Anyone up for ABGs?